Oh, it didn't do the little music thing.
I think you have to put it in.
Well, I did not do that.
Hi.
Welcome to the Writing Gals. We are back. We are back. After a long summer of craziness, we are finally back and ready to discuss some topics.
In our fall of craziness.
In our fall of craziness?
Fall.
Oh,
It's autumn.
our craziness of life. So I think we're going to skip what we're doing now. I hope you guys are okay with that so we can just get into topics. And if you want to know what we're doing, ask us in the group and be happy to tell you. So what we're going to talk about today is when to reset. And I like this topic because there's going to become multiple times in your career where you are going to have to take a step back, look at what you've done, look at where you could be going, and trying to decide, do I need to make some major changes? And what we want to discuss is how you know that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw a question out there to all you lovely ladies. What is a reset? Which I kind of explained, but to you, what does a reset look like to you?
Basically when I reevaluate where I'm going, and if I see that it's not where I'm wanting to go, then I'll look and try to figure out what I can do differently to get to where I do want to go. And sometimes it can be a big shift, and sometimes it can just be a little turn. So.
Because I know you and Michelle are probably the ones who in our group has talked most about wanting to reset. So kind of explain to us maybe about what is your pivotal point right now where you're saying, this is where I want to go, or this is not where I want to continue going down this path. Like, what does that reset look like? Or how did you know that you had come upon a time in your career where you've needed to reset?
Yeah. So for me, like last winter, my life situation, my family dynamics had changed. My husband was working more, or before he'd been home, and I'd had more time to work myself, but I was still trying to accomplish what I had done previously. And I was like putting so much pressure on myself and making myself crazy. So basically when I'm feeling crazy for a long time, then I know I need to change what I'm doing because it's not working. And I need to just be okay with expecting less of myself. At least that's how it was for me. And and then also I think it's important if you do set goals, for where you want to go, and you want to hit like certain points in your career by a specific time, and you'll do everything you can until that point. And then if you get there and it's not doing what you expected, maybe reevaluate what you're doing. So like with me, I want to hit certain monetary goals by a certain date. And so, or at least by the time this series that I'm working on is finished. And then if I'm not where I want it to be, then I'm going to reconsider maybe trying different ways of publishing or switching genres or just different things. So yeah, does that make sense?
Totally. So for me, go ahead. For me, my big reset came after I had written 2 books, both in completely different genres. And I was just kind of sitting there looking at myself as an author, trying to figure out who I wanted to be as an author. And so I had to just take a step back and say, okay, book 1 did phenomenally. It sold a ton. And book 2 didn't sell. Even when I tried to give it away, it wouldn't sell. So what do I need to do? Where am I going? Where am I guiding this ship? And I had to make some decisions for myself as to how I was going to brand myself. After 2 books, I kind of had a little bit better idea of what kind of writer I was, what I wanted to be, where I wanted to go. And so that's where my big reset came, was after I got done playing around with writing, and I was like, okay, I want to be a real writer now. I just want to, brand myself as a sweet romance author, and I want to learn all I can about writing romance and go in that direction. So that's where my big reset came. And now I do have another genre I'm starting to write in. I'm not going to call it a reset, though. I'm going to call it a branch that I'm branching off and exploring 2 things now, and I am going to write that one under a pen name. So this is a new adventure for me, but it's not really a reset because I'm going to continue to grow my rom-com brand.
Mm-hmm. So my first reset was right before we as the Writing Gals got started, and I had written, I think, 4 books by that point, and that was kind of like my education years where I was learning a lot about the craft of writing.
but I wasn't doing a lot financially. And then I decided, I actually had a very specific thing in life where my family needed me to make about $1,000 a month to help with our income. And if I couldn't make that with my writing, then I needed to go get a job to do it. And so it gave me a very specific goal and a lot of motivation to get there. And then after that, when I started making a lot more than $1,000 a month, in fact, even after I got up to like, I had one like $15,000 a month, then I was like, okay, well, let's just do more of this. But I didn't have like that very specific goal anymore. At that point, I was just rushing forward kind of blindly, just like, this seems like the right direction to go. And what that ended up getting me like to in the end was burnout. And that hit me really hard and really suddenly. And I'm still in many, many ways trying to recover from that. And so I thought I did like a burnout reset where I scaled everything back and tried to find joy in my writing again. But I'm figuring out that what I'm now missing is that very specific goal. And so I'm trying to figure out right now, I am starting a new reset where I'm like, okay, what is it that I want very specifically? And what are the things that I need to do to get myself there? One of the hardest parts for me is looking around at everybody else's success and everybody else that's sprinting ahead of me and thinking, I just need to keep pushing forward and going for that thing because that's, you know, really attractive and sparkly and I want it. But then I have come to realize more where I'm at in my current life, what my family's needs are, and what actually brings me happiness and makes me fulfilled. And I've realized that for me, I've lost a lot of my joy in the actual writing process as I've been tied down to fan expectations, finishing series, you know, trying to release quickly. All of these things are changing the way I look at and approach and feel the actual writing process, which is why I started this in the whole, you know, in the first place. So for me, I'm having to look at the fact that I want my writing to like benefit my life, and I don't want my life controlling my writing. I don't want everything I do focused around constantly trying to make more money just because that seems to be like the easy goal, right? I just need to reset and find my specific version of success. What's going to be a successful goal for me to hit, the things I need to do to get there, and then how I'm going to keep my tendency to compare my goals and what I want to what everybody else is trying to achieve. So my reset's going to probably involve a pretty good overhaul of the kinds of projects that I'm taking on.
Well, and I think too, like Michelle said, and you guys, it's having a plan to move forward in a certain direction. Mm-hmm. And I think in the beginning of our careers, it was get more books out, get more books out, get more books out. And I'm not really going to pay attention to the other types of things because everyone tells you, you know, you need books to build newsletters. You need books to sell to fans. If you're going to advertise, you want to have extra books behind them to make that profitability there. So your focus becomes very much on writing the next book. But there comes a point where you say, okay, wait a minute. I have 50 books out and I am putting books out constantly and I am not making any more money. And I think for me, that reset came from, okay, now I have enough books out that I could legitimately take time and not write anything, but still make income if I'm basing it off of advertising. And that's where my shift has gone from writing to advertising. And I'm still writing every month because I put these crazy pre-order deadlines for myself. But now I'm resetting and saying next year I want to focus on, I love to see authors get super excited with new releases and push it super hard. And I never get to enjoy a new release because as soon as I put that, I literally write it, send it to my editor, upload it, move on. Like I don't ever go back. I never enjoy it. I very rarely ever read things that I've written in the past because I just don't have the time. And for me, I'm like, I want more time. So my next question for you ladies is, how do you know the difference between needing to reset your career and maybe perhaps something in your personal life? Like, how do you differentiate between the two? Because I hear a lot like we're like, well, I need to reset my career to make my family match with my family more. But what if you're like me and more like Judy too, where our family depends. Like my husband doesn't work. My family depends solely on my income. So for me, I can't just be like, oh, I'm going to go write a for love book because mama's got to pay the mortgage. She's got to buy food. So like, how do you suggest to people who are like, well, I'm stressed out, but I don't know if it's my career or something else? What would be your advice?
I think it all goes back to goals for me. Like your goals for writing are going to be a lot different than mine are, specifically because you are supporting your family and I'm not. And so just determining what that goal is going to completely change the direction that you take forward. And I think that like you have to run a business in a much more mindful way than I have to. But at the same time, me trying to run my business the same way you do is going to like change my ability to get to my goals, what they are. Mm-hmm. And like sometimes there's just not an answer. Like if you have to earn money for your family, you're going to probably have to take more drastic actions, and you're probably going to have to put in a lot more energy and time and just like butt in seat hours than I'm going to have to, you know? And I guess you just have to find your way through like the efficiency thing.
Yeah.
Like, how do you make the best use of your time? How do you, like, if you can only spend, you don't want to be away from your family more than you have to, right? Mm-hmm. So you just have to think, okay, I need to make the best use of my time. What's going to be most profitable for me? Mm-hmm. What's going to be the thing that is going to keep me most motivated to write during those times? And, you know, all of us are going to come up with different answers for that. I think learning to ask the right questions is the important part.
Yeah. And figuring out where to go for those answers is going to be different for each one of us too, because you know, where I go for my answers is going to be different than where you go for your answers. And because my situation is different than yours. And I think it's one of those things where we all have to figure out our own path, and we all have to figure out, do I need to treat this as a business, as a job where I am there every single day and I write from this time to this time and this is what I do? Or is this something a little more fluid? Like for me, my family doesn't rely on my income. And so I am a little more free to go off and write some not to market thing that I'm writing right now.
But I don't necessarily mean that. I don't think that you can't not sell that. That's the thing too.
Yeah. I'm like, I think yours will sell. I like it.
I'm hoping it'll sell.
I think it's also just sometimes I think when we feel overwhelmed in our lives, our first initial reaction is I need to cut back on my business. And I don't, and I'm basically, maybe I'm just trying to give people permission to like, you can reset other aspects of your life.
Yeah. Like, and I think it's good to talk with the other people in your life and see how they can help you. If they can, you know, try to make things work out better. And then also just accept that you have only a certain number of hours in your day and so much time to spend working and so much time to spend with your family, and just try to do the best you can and accept that that's just how it is, even if we want all of our dreams to come true right now. That's my problem. I'm like, I just want it all right now.
So I think something Amy said was really important. I think that the reason a reset is good is it allows you to step back. I think sometimes when we're just too in the middle of our daily grind, it's hard to step back and make good choices. I think that stepping back and looking at things from a bird's eye view, so to speak, is what helps us to make, you know, wiser decisions. And yeah, like don't abandon your business just because like you want to do these other things if the business is what is paying your rent, you know? So instead you have to step back and say, okay, what are the things that like every business might hire like business consultants or efficiency experts or, you know, different people that have expertise in coming into a company and looking at where they're wasting payroll, where they're wasting, you know, hours, where they're wasting energy expenses. Are they spending too much on their office, on their mail? You know, where
social media?
Yeah, where are the ways that you're bleeding time and money and energy? And what is actually bringing you, you know, a return on that investment? And I think a reset is a time to really look at all of those things and make those important choices for your business. Also, Tracy over here made a comment about like, when you're just starting out, there's nothing to reset from. I think that the resets, are something that you just have smaller resets when you're first starting out. And the further you go along, the bigger they are. And maybe you're not even thinking of them as resets. Like the first time, like in our conference that we're like currently taking registrations for, that's next month, I'm teaching a class called Breaking Up with Your First Book. And the premise behind that is sometimes as authors, we get so attached to that book and we spent so many years on it that it kind of keeps us from moving forward in a lot of ways, whether that's to actually publishing that book or whether it's writing the next book. So many people write 3 books and they want to go back and edit that first book, you know, and there comes that point early in your career where you kind of have a reset moment where you're like, okay, it's not about my first book anymore. Now it's about, you know, I know what I'm doing with publishing. I know more about writing. So now what do I want to accomplish? You know, like I've achieved this goal. I think anytime you achieve a goal, it's time for a reset. It's time to say, okay, I achieved that goal. Now what's the next step forward and how do I get there? Mm-hmm. So I think at any point, even if you're still just in drafting mode, you know, your reset might be like, okay, I'm spending too long on this book. It's time for a reset, figure out what my goals are and get there and stop just focusing on this one draft, right?
Well, and I think it's being understanding of why you're behaving in a certain way. So like, for example, if you are constantly sitting down at your computer and being distracted by every single thing around you, and the worst thing you cannot get, like it feels literally like you are bleeding, like it's just blowing like out of your brain. There's probably something going on. And at that point, I would say, even like you can reset on micro levels where you can say, okay, something is not working. Why am I behaving this way? And I have like not writing experience. So we're looking at purchasing another home to live closer, but we want to keep our current home to rent. And the other day I was like, I've just gotten back and I was so exhausted, but I wanted to go out and go shopping again. And I couldn't figure out why until I realized I'm anxious and I don't have a plan to go right now. And so I'm just like, well, if I go out and I go shopping for furniture for this house that we're trying to, because we're going to Airbnb it. So we have to furnish it. And then I'll find something and I'm like, but that's not really going to give me peace and happiness. But in my brain, that's what made sense to me that helped me alleviate that anxiety. So there could be reasons inside of you that you cannot get words out onto the page. And if you just continue to force yourself to sit down and you don't address these things and reset yourself, it's just going to be the same thing happening over and over again. And then you're going to get exhausted. And somebody here asked, how do you, what are some early symptoms of burnout? Because I think burnout can be a precursor to a reset. And what are ways to combat it before you're paralyzed?
Mm-hmm. So my symptoms of burnout was not wanting to write anymore. Like the inability to make myself get excited about my story and the ability I had to cope with stress. Like if I had a short temper, if I just couldn't manage things very well, I was burnt out. And the fact that I found myself gorging on entertainment was telling me that my creative bucket was empty and I needed to refill it. So there was simple things that you don't always pay attention to. And I always recommend Becca Symes is a great person. Like go check out her quick cast. She has a lot of great episodes about burnout that I watched that helped me, you know, guide myself through them in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's a lot of times you have a lot of healing to go through mentally and emotionally to get out of burnout. And the quicker you can catch it and stop yourself from sliding further into it, the less time it's going to take you to be able to turn back around. And that's what these resets are good for, is like recognizing that you're heading into it and stopping it before it happens. I think so many times some of our burnout is caused because we're trying to do what everybody else is doing. And we don't understand what our capacity is, or we don't understand, you know, that they have things that benefit them that we don't necessarily have. Like, for example, Amy's husband is able to watch her kids. And, you know, that responsibility falls a lot more on my shoulders. She also has an engine that never stops running. And I don't have that.
She has that secret clone somewhere.
Just innately, I don't have that.
I'm just a little bit crazier.
That you know, I maybe could use a little more crazy. I don't know. But, you know, just I think too often we're looking around trying to think, I need to be doing what everyone else is doing, and I need to have the level of success everyone else is having. And if you're a new author, sometimes you're like, I need to be doing what these authors are doing that have been in the business for 5 or 10 years, and
they have a backlist capacity that you don't have, and you won't get that same level of fandom until you reach that. Like, there's just some things that, no, trust me, and I have tried to, you cannot advertise your way out of a little bit of books. Like, you have to take it piece by piece. So yeah.
And I think you just have to find that point where you're not constantly running your engine on empty, trying to catch up to some goal that was never actually your goal in the first place, right? Or maybe was a misplaced goal that you had because you were trying to like compete with people, or you were comparing yourself with people.
Yeah. What about Judy or Victorine? You want to talk about
I just went through a burnout, so I'll tell you, my symptoms were just like Michelle's, not wanting to write, sitting down to write, and then no words coming out, and just feeling like nothing was working, and then craving entertainment and just soaking all the craving story, no matter how it came, either in audiobooks or reading or just watching Korean dramas, craving that story to fill up that bucket. And that's how I was working. And I think my burnout came from writing in the same series and just pushing too much in that series, and starting something totally different has definitely helped my burnout.
Yeah. Mine's mostly I just feel overwhelmed with things. And then also, just not feeling like writing at all and just avoiding it. And
isn't that sad? Like, that's what we love the most, right? Is writing the story. And we kind of sacrifice that too often for the business side of it. And I just think that's very sad.
I think for me, when I enter into writing burnout, that's when I turn to marketing, because I enjoy marketing and I can still provide for my family when I'm marketing. And so that's helpful. Or I'm trying to I told my husband, I'm like, I'm a very boring person. Like, I like to do 2 things, and that's write and market. I'm like, I have no hobbies beyond that. I don't have time. I'm working and writing and marketing, and then I'm taking care of my kids. And he just was like, that's a really sad life to live. And I was like, yeah, it is. So I'm trying.
Unless you love writing, then it's great, right?
But we also hate writing, because in the middle, we all hate it. Like, it's exciting for the first part of the book, and it's exciting to finish. But it's that middle part where you were like, can you just get together? Like, the
middle part's the best.
Yeah.
The beginning is hard.
Differing views. I like to torture. Michelle, Victory, or Judy just likes to write the happiness and the get together and all that stuff. So I'm like, it's very much that aspect. But I'm the kind of person that I can't afford to just walk away. And I'm also a control freak, and I like to make money. And so I don't want to just walk away, because I know all this time that I've spent building up these advertisings and marketing and fan base, I don't want to waste that time by walking away. And that's more my brain is wired, where I get anxiety to the point where I'll go shopping when I'm exhausted, just trying to find some semblance of stuff that makes sense in my brain. I do have one other question before we finish here. Someone asks, what are your tips on how not to let feelings of failure and disappointment take over when you realize you need a reset, or your reset is taking longer than you thought?
And let's just go ahead and feed this other comment in, like, about judging yourself for how you used to perform. Like, so beating yourself up in any way, shape, or form, right? And for me, that's why I need a goal. Like, I need to have something to focus on besides where I'm failing. I need to have a direction besides I'm not doing what everyone else is doing, And in 2019, I made $30,000 more than I did last year, and more than I'm going to make this year. So in some ways, it'd be really easy to just beat myself up about that and stall out. But, I had all of my kids and my husband at home with me for the whole entire year. And it caused a ripple effect of, difficulties and struggles in our family that we're still trying to dig our way out of. And, it took a toll on me as a writer, as a business person. And I can't beat myself up for that. All I have to do is say, okay, this is where I am now. Where do I want to go? And what do I want my life to be like? And how do I get there?
For me, it's all about mindset, which is another thing we're going to be talking about at our conference. And last year, the whole conversation about mindset was just very inspiring to me. And so I have to always go back and think about that and think about, what am I saying inside my head? What tape am I playing to myself over and over again? I need to make sure that is good things I'm saying to myself rather than bad things, because your mindset is a lot of how you view life.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, did you want to say anything?
I just be kind to yourself. I don't know. I just try to realize that I am usually doing my best, and just realize I'm not Superwoman, and it's okay.
I think for me, it was, you're going to get a lot of advice from every author. Opinions are like butts. Everyone has one. So if you go up to someone and you say, well, how did you make it up to the next level? They're going to tell you how they did it and how they think the best way to do it is. And you have to be able to sift through that information. I mean, even when you go on to any other, you go to the Writing Gals group, you go to anyone asks a question, how do I insert here? And everyone will say, well, I know authors who did it this way. And I know authors who did it that way. And I know authors who did it this way. And it's important for you to be able to say, okay, when I sit down to look at where my reset is, what are my goals? What am I capable of? And then implementing those. And honestly, it's also not giving up when it gets a little hard, because sometimes resets do take a long time, or it might not be giving you the return you want, but you also might not have given it enough time. So you just have to be like, this goal, my goal this year was to finish my co-writing books and to finish longer series. I looked at author examples and I said, the reason why these people are successful is they have 7-10 book series. So when they advertise to book one, they're getting all of that read through. And to me, I was like, that is my goal. And it is a sucky goal because I don't get to write in anything else but these 2 series. And it's hard. But I had set that goal for myself. And once I have completed this goal, I can look back and say, okay, what did I like about that? What did I not like about that? And reset based on that. So sometimes it's letting the system and the thing you picked work, finish it, and then learn from it. So I think, so like, that's my opinion. And there are other people are going to have other opinions. But I also think you can't just always be ping-ponging back and forth because you're not super finding where you're at. I think sometimes also sitting down and finishing the goal you set for yourself and then analyzing from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, we're super excited you guys to join us during Reset. We have a lot of stuff planned. We're going to talk about our goals, setting goals. I know we're entering into Q4, which is crazy, and 2022 is just around the corner. We'll be talking about goals and stuff like that. We also are going to be trying to do more themed things. So that's a lot of mindsets type stuff we're going to be talking about resetting. The great place to come to figure out where you need to reset or how you need to reset is our Writing Gals conference, which is going to be happening virtually October 13th through the 16th. Well, as soon as you sign up, you give access to like how many videos? 20 videos?
20, yeah.
From the Writing Gals talking about all sorts of topics. And then at the conference, we're doing panels, we're doing lives. I'm interviewing a few people.
Writing sprints,
classes. It's going to be a knowledge, just come as a sponge and soak up what you need, what it is that you need to hear.
And I think it's one of the only virtual conferences I've seen that is an actual conference experience. We do our best to make it feel like a conference experience and not just a bunch of videos to watch. So we have a lot of fun, and we had a lot of people who attended last year who really had just a genuinely good time.
They literally, during the conference time, Barry did not watch a lot of the videos because we had so many lives going on all the time. So that after the conference, you have access for a couple of months to these videos to be able to watch, take notes, all those sorts of things. But again, here on YouTube in our Writing Gals group, you can come and get a lot of this information as well. We have lots of stuff planned, so it's going to be exciting. But thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Yay.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.